Hello, everybody. On coffee break here. I want to do a live. I've been going through all the comments. I miss a lot. I get a lot now. It's hundreds a day, plus all the PMs. It's vast. It can take up hours a day, and some days I get a chance to do it, and this is one of those evenings. So, what I notice a reoccurring theme, whatever province, as I go on this federal journey, as I take on more and more followers, which there's literally 100 a day. It's pretty cool. So I'm getting out there. I'm reaching people from all over, and every single province has a different issue they're dealing with. It all ties in together, and everybody says the same thing. Remove Doug Ford, remove Justin Trudeau, remove Jason Kenney. Goes on and on. BC, Oregon, there's all kinds of provinces and people screaming this out as I click on the links they share. I look at it and the posts made in many provinces. And you know what? NDP, Conservative, Liberal, they're all represented there. You notice how there's no difference right now in this COVID crisis? It doesn't matter what party. And I'm going to go back to it again. For all of those of you who don't know, share this video to those of any of the mainstream parties. In fact, it's all parties, because I'm going to tell you all Canadians today. Again, you have 0 codified provincial constitutions. In this world, you're not going to find that in any other countries, really. The vast majority who have regions are called, which are provinces, territories, states. There's some other narratives, names there too. They're all the same. The issue is, of those regions, they all have constitutions. Some have good rules of governance, some do not. We don't have any. In all the provinces and territories in Canada, there exists no constitution. You cannot find a single expert in the world of constitutional law, whatever other crazy narratives some may present. There is not a one graduated expert in constitutional law study who will say, oh, Canada has provincial constitutions. They don't. We have 0. Absolutely 0. You have some codified rights in some acts. However, that's subject to your politicians. Whomever you elect gets to govern and decide on all of your charter civil rights. Goes on and on. Now, federally, we have a limited constitution. We have one. It's limited. Doesn't matter if it was imposed or how it was crafted. It's here. It's what governs Canada. In that very, very limited constitution, the power rests in a colonial embedded power, everybody. Your federal elected representatives, especially absolutely the party in power, gets a whole list of crown power supposed to be illegal that allows them to overstep any democracy. Prime Minister, Governor General, Lieutenant Governors of all provinces. However, under division of powers in that very limited constitution, it says federal powers, provincial powers. All civil rights generally are provincial powers. There's a few little rules that give a few to the federal government, very, very few. Most of Canadians' rights are found in the civil right. The other side of it is charter rights. Those charter rights, there's no rules of governance for the federal government. They get to, as you elect them, decide how they're going to see those administered for all of you. Reinterpreting them every time, every chance they get, every new government. You don't know what they're going to do because you don't have a codified constitution that says, hello, politician, you've been elected to represent me. Here's the rules of how you're going to operate. Should you step out of that and breach these rules of governance, these are the accountable things you're going to be subjected to, and the police, military, and all of it will follow that. Wow, what a concept. There are many, many countries out there that have this. Just look next door to the United States of America. They are so constitutionally sound comparatively to the rest of the world in rules of governance. They even have it at all 50 state levels. An American, an educated American, a good friend of mine who is just as well as me on looking into things, and we all learn off each other, even academics. And I'll tell you, the states have it in their constitutions for their own militaries to stand against federal imposition of trying to overstep or breach constitutional powers of the states. That's why they don't, because nobody wants some military coup forming in a state and going after the federal government, and then the Supreme Court ruling, because they don't have any King's Court or juristocracy. They're left alone in the middle. Predicting American outcomes of court cases at the Supreme Court level is relatively easy. I've already proved that. Go on my timeline, as painful as people want to look at that, as angry as a lot of Americans got, I nail it 100%, almost word for word exactly how it would go. How would I know that? Well, that's called learning systems, learning juristocracy, learning King's Court, learning all the systems, and then coming to the conclusion that this is how the federal government in the U.S. under their court system will operate. And that's just about as easy as it is. Looking at precedent, you won't see judges stray from the Constitution. Very predictable, as it should be. You should be able to rest easy electing any Joe, Jane, dumbbell, and I use that word because in a really good Constitution, it shouldn't matter who you elect. All the checks and balances are going to be in place, holding that politician to account, forcing the politician to act with your best interests. That's true codification. There is none of that in Canada. Zero. The only codification that exists, very limited again, very small c here, is that the politicians run in crown power and can go around all your democracy. Her Majesty, which absolutely belongs to whoever you crown Prime Minister, with the only absolute right you have to vote every 4 years, or to create a federal party, or to create a provincial party. These are the only 3 absolute legal rights that can't be manipulated. I shouldn't say that. They could be. They could change the terms to make it so impossible and so hard you couldn't do the other 2. And they're manipulating with Privy Council right now and pushing forward new voting rules, new multiple days, so we're not going to know who the party is, opening it up to all kinds of voter fraud. Largely worse than anything in the United States, my opinion. Can't prove it, but I've been through an election. I know the system. I know the election laws. And I'm going to learn the federal if it isn't the same as the provinces. However, I've read enough to know it certainly is. So that's my video. Share it to everybody, whoever comments about electing another party. Because if a party doesn't promise absolute dismemberment and redesign federally, stating rules of governance, how to protect the people and give strength to the people and make sure politicians are held accountable, they're never going to do anything for you. They're only going after the crown for themselves. If they don't promise provincial constitutions, don't elect them if it's not in a party's platform. If they don't promise to set rules of governance in how to govern, codification of provincial constitutions by way of everybody in town hall by great experts worldwide, I wouldn't for a minute vote for any of them, and I never will vote again. I'll just keep running in election after election, keep parties going, and keep educating Canadians as best as I can. That is how I'm going to spend the rest of my days, or as long as I can, until the country crumbles to the point I got to say arrivederci. That's what's going to happen. I'm not running away. I'm going to do this path. I'm going to finish what I started and make sure every Canadian knows what they need to know, honestly, openly, and transparently. What is, not what they tell you. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your night. Share, share, share. Anyone who talks about parties, look at the platform. If they're not going to end the colonialism or provide provincial constitutions, which is insane in this world not to have them, don't know what to tell you. You're just going to fall on your face again and again, flip-flop, 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 getting worse and worse over and over. Look at so many countries in the world. They just shake their head at you. Why wouldn't you do it? Why do you let your politicians do it? And there are some Canadians and some people who speak and they say, oh, that guy's a punk. Not me, but others. And maybe they're a little rude and a little rash with what they say about Canadians. But there's truth there. Canadians just bend over and take it. You just take it over and over. While so many other countries that people say are backward are getting this done right now, or third world are getting this done today as I'm shooting this video. But somehow we can't get it together in supposedly a first world country that I don't believe will be first world in another year. That's it. Share. Bye now.